parental immaturity creates an unpredictable environment. Because if we are unpredictable, if our children can't count on us, then that reduces their security, which then, of course, causes more misbehavior because children need security in order to behave well.
Particularly, I would say when things get stressful, challenging, scary, when things aren't working out so well, they have to be able to count on the adults being adults. Does that make sense? Like they really have to count on that. If things get scary or just thrown off, they've
Which
got to be able to count on us.
which includes the big emotion,
Yeah.
because big emotions are scary for us. They're definitely scary for our children. One of the effects of our own immaturity is that it creates an environment that feels less safe for our kids. And so we're like, okay, I know, I get that this is important. How do I actually do it? And we're going to talk more about that still. But one of the tools that we use, and I would say, I mean, we still use it, but we definitely used it more when our children were younger because it worked. And so, do you want to say something before I tell my story?
So the key here again, you feel the frustration. Maybe it's because you're always late. Maybe because the kids are always fighting and you don't want them to fight, or they break things, they make messes, whatever it is. Like whatever the thing is, you're like, I want to have better control. I want to respond better, but I'm really having a hard time actually doing it. And one thing that we found works really well is a gigantic reality check. Like where in your mind, I mean, you hit it so hard that it's a shock to your system. And that specifically was one of the things we use.
Well, and the reason, the way we came into using that strategy, specifically thinking about children who had died to remind us of our own gratitude of our children being alive, is that it happened to us, not that a child died, that we knew of people who had lost children, and maybe all of us have, but at least two or three different instances over our young parenting years, we heard about a friend or someone we knew who lost a child.
That was one of the ages
Yeah, that
of
was
our
the
children.
age of one of our children. And I remember one of the scenarios, we were living in Guatemala at the time, and I had been frustrated, irritated, annoyed with my children. And I knew of this family. I didn't know them personally, but I knew them from online, that we were in this community of traveling families online. And one of them had been living in Mexico. So again, I felt like a similar situation. We were in Guatemala, they were in Mexico. They had a few children, we had a few children, and the child that was the age of one of our children, what had happened is they had left their children with a babysitter who was a local babysitter. We had done that many times with our children. And the babysitter invited over, or I don't know if it was I don't know all the details, doesn't matter. The boyfriend or ex-boyfriend of the babysitter came over, and somehow, I don't know the details, their child ended up in the pool and drowned. And when I heard that story, immediately every irritation, every annoyance, every frustration I had with my children was gone. I felt nothing but love, gratitude, thankfulness. Like all I could do was love my children. Nothing they did could make me upset. Nothing they said, all of their things just were like, you're so adorable. You're so beautiful. I just love it. I'm just so grateful. And that lasted for days at least, if not longer. And I began to realize, because then there was a couple other scenarios like that. And I began to realize, well, wait a second. If I can feel like that when something like that happens, why can't I just learn to generate that on my own? Like, why do I have to wait for some tragedy to feel that level of gratitude
And to maintain perspective.
and to maintain that perspective? And so, if necessary, if I'm ever feeling like I can't handle my kids, like I'm frustrated or irritated or annoyed, I will go there because it works. I'm like, you know what? They're alive. They're healthy. They're not sick. I'm not dealing with some major illness or challenge with them. I'm like, if this is the problem I have to deal with, great. I will take it all day long. Because that was another thing I thought. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine having to deal with that challenge. I am so grateful for my challenges. I will choose them every single day. So it's almost that attitude of like, you know what? This is the challenge I choose. I choose to have to want to learn how to deal with these problems with my children because that's a way better challenge than dealing with XYZ or this thing over there. Keeping that perspective helps me so much because I'm like, yeah, I choose this. I would choose this. If I had to pick from a pile of challenges, this is the one I'll take all day long, right? So we have to learn how to integrate that into our daily lives, not in a morbid sense, right? But just in the perspective shifting sense that brings when we recognize that, you know what? Our life is good and our challenges are challenges we would choose if we had to choose from worse ones.
Within a couple of short years, we had 2 more life-altering experiences similar to that, that drilled that home for me permanently, absolutely permanently.
Well, one of which included our
Our own daughter, our
our
own 3-year-old,
daughter.
we got in a car accident in Alaska, and our 3-year-old daughter was ejected from the car and snapped her femur in half, and we almost lost her that night. And she spent 14 weeks in a full body cast in the winter in Alaska, and we almost lost her. And so that was like the final thing of like just drive that home. How can I possibly get frustrated when I still have them? And I guess that's one of the things we want to pass on to you is like when you feel like, I don't know what to do. I just want to, I'm ready to beat my own kids. I get it. Like, cause they get there, but all you have to do is say, stop. Like, I still have kids.
Well, and I would often, in those moments, I would think of the mothers who had lost their children. And I would think she would be so grateful to be in my place right now. She would probably give anything to be in my place. So I'm grateful that I get to be here and I get to be doing this. Okay.
Whew. I know we had to go
Now
heavy
let's go
there.
back.
We had to go heavy because it works. And when you have a big reality check and you have a huge, it's called juxtaposition, when you create a massive paradigm shift, it's so easy to keep yourself in check. It's so easy to calm down. You stop and say, you just go extreme there and you're like, okay, woo, yeah, I can be calm here. This is nothing.
Yeah.
My 5-year, how old was she? Was probably 3 or 4. She took a huge kitchen knife and just started poking holes in our nice leather couch. And I walked out and I was like, "Duh." And I was like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, hi, daddy. I'm playing a game. We don't play games with gigantic kitchen knives and leather couches. And I didn't explode. I didn't blow up. I just kept my cool. Walked over. I was like, let's not do that. And she learned. She never did it again. But I was like, it's just a couch. I still have a child who likes to play with kitchen knives in the best room in the house,
Yeah.
right? You keep your cool because you're like, what's the point?
Well, and we're also not saying, oh, I'm so grateful my children are alive. I'm going to let them do whatever they want and become barbarians, right? We don't want to go to that extreme either. We want to teach our children. We want them to be
You can do whatever you want, kid. We're just glad you're alive.